This week on Supercars Talk, Jaime takes Brad Jones Racing's first Gen 3 win, but on Sunday, normal programming resumes with a 888 clean sweep. The big news this week is that the Gen 3 prototype cars are for sale. Apparently, all of the parity things done and dusted, no need to worry, so we can sell the prototypes. These are obviously, the Camaro was made by 888, the Mustang made by Dick Johnson Racing, but they were for the sole purpose of the testing and homologation and all of that. So these cars haven't actually raced. They are the ones that went overseas to do the wind tunnel testing and that over Christmas. Yeah, they're up for sale now. If you want to grab them, they're going up for auction as far as I know. The Mustang has been reverted back to that S550 face or whatever you call it, with that blue livery, and the Camaro is in that silver livery that we first saw them released in. So yeah, you can go and get your hands on the real thing if you have enough money. The actual big news this week, though, is that Matt Charter has confirmed he will be running a wildcard in the Enduros this year. No news on who his co-driver will be, but they've said it will be a young gun. They did miss out on doing the Enduros last year after competing in 2022. They are talking to Brad Jones Racing and 888 about supply of the car, but that's all the news we've got on that so far. The last little bit of news this week is that Cam Waters has confirmed the worst kept secret around. He will be doing a second NASCAR truck race at Kansas Speedway on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Now, for the racing over the weekend, I was a little bit reserved about my excitement when I originally saw this track, and then a lot of the drivers were talking about tyre deg and things like that, and I thought maybe we might get some exciting racing, but a lot of people had kind of referred to it as a bit of a goat track and backwater and all that kind of thing. Yeah. It was quite a long lap. There was a lot going on. It was one of those tracks where you could take different lines into corners. So people could, you know, you had to take your 3 corners or whatever to line up a pass, but you'd take your different lines and things like that. So there's a bit of different strategy. We did have the tyre deg, people's tyres going off at different rates, people stopping early, people stopping later. And yeah, did not miss the fuel drop either. It probably took a little bit away because then everyone's pit stops were essentially the same time, but it also, there isn't that stupidness a bit where, and that helped this weekend with the tyre deg as well. You don't kind of have that stupidness of coming into the pits for no reason. People were actually coming in to change tyres because they were wearing out. So overall, I was really happy with the racing over the weekend. Yeah, I'd love to see a second round in New Zealand. Yeah, I couldn't believe the crowd that was there on Saturday while it was pissing down. Now, of course, the wet weather did help with the racing and that, throwing a bit of a curveball in there. I think that's the first proper wet race we've had in the Gen 3 era, so with the new tyres and things like that, made a bit of a difference there. But yeah, overall, a very, very good job there. I'd be happy to see Taupo stay on the calendar for a long time. But let's get into the rundown of the racing over the weekend. Kicking it off, as always, the bottom team in the Teams Championship, even though now they've got 2 cars, they're still on the bottom. Blanchard Racing. Well, they're still there. They're still being beaten by the DJR B team in the championship. We'll leave it at that, shall we? Next up, Premier Racing. A lot of people are going to say, what could have been on Saturday? Well, yeah, okay, we all know Slade, he qualified right up the front. Now, granted, it was a little bit fortuitous. He did get to run early in the top 10 shootout when the conditions were at the best, but he was still there. He still did the job. Really, really good start, and then Will Brown moved over. Yes, it was a racing incident, but if you have to blame someone, that was Will Brown's fault, just moving across, even though there were 2 cars next to him. Yeah, so people will say, oh, you know, Tim Slade would have gone on to win the race. Well, look at what happened on Sunday. He qualified in the top 10 shootout again and then fell down the field, went backwards like no man's business. Yeah, so I would imagine that the same thing would have happened on Saturday, even though conditions were different and that's what happens at Premier. One qualifies up the front and goes backwards through the field. The other one qualifies at the back and goes forwards through the field, which is what Jimmy did over the weekend. So, yeah, Golding's got himself into the top 10 in points. He's bad qualifying, but ended up 7th and 5th in the 2 races. While Tim Slade did look like a man who does have a job for the rest of the year over the weekend, though. He looked a lot more casual this weekend than what he did, especially at Bathurst, probably with someone else down the other end of the field, kind of in that number 1 car. But yeah, once again, Premier, they're doing what they do best, just swapping ends of the field and yeah, ending up in a, you know, similar position as what they have been every other race for their whole existence. Brad Jones Racing. Jaime learns how to qualify. Didn't even need to be right at the front. But yeah, and a win. If you'd said that at the start of the weekend, that wasn't something I was going to be expecting. It was a little bit fortuitous as well, with the top 10 shootout being an earlier runner when the conditions were good, but he still had the job to do. It was a little bit lucky, you know, with Slade and Waters taking each other out, Will Brown having his tyre troubles, Chaz losing a wheel and that, but he was the man there who did the job. It was a solid drive, really, really good. Yeah, Sunday, not as good, but still ended up 6th, so still quite impressive, just missing out there, taking the JR trophy for the team, but a massive step up for Jaime this weekend. This is where we've expected him to be all year, and yeah, well, the last 2 rounds he hasn't. Hopefully he will be in the fight for the rest of the year. As for the rest of the team, Jackson Evans was the man. He came home 10th and 14th. That is a big step up for that car. It's probably the best results that car has ever had over a weekend. That's jumped him to 2nd in the Brad Jones Racing Championship points table as well. Let's not talk about the other 2. I mean, Forward basically only got on TV because he got spun around and caused one of the safety cars, and I think we wouldn't have seen anything from Macca except they showed that Wendy's paint job a few times, which... the colours didn't work. It looked really cool. I mean, the Brad Jones Racing guys, they do a really good job with the liveries, but yeah, the colours didn't do it for me. Tick Ford Racing. Yeah, 2 cars is really working so well for these guys. Okay, Waters did get taken out. He was right at the front of the pack. He did, like, he raced right back through. Yeah, I'm just trying to think where he was back in the top 10 at the end of the race, even after that first lap incident. But yeah, it's not, didn't really have that front running pace, especially in the dry on Sunday, and Randall was just kind of middle of the pack. These guys are supposed to be challenging for the championship now that they're back to 2 cars, and yeah, the results haven't got any better yet. Matt Stone Racing. Cam Hill, a bit of a revelation weekend, I suppose, from him. He was really strong on Saturday. Another one a little bit helped by the top 10 shootout, but once again, he got himself into the top 10 shootout. He did do the lap in the session. He really got screwed over with all those guys double stacking under that safety car period, and yeah, he just got jammed in the pits. He was running well within the top 10, and he came out, it was like 18th or something. He dropped at like 10 positions in the pits because of people double stacking in the wrong places, and just boxed him in. He couldn't go anywhere, and that just really set up his race. Yeah, so Sunday it was a strongish drive. He's improving. He's improving. As for the other side of the garage, well, yeah, Walkinshaw Andretti United spec Nick Percat was back this weekend. I think that's about the nicest thing I can say about Percat's weekend. We'll leave it at that. Team 18. Well, Reynolds on Saturday in the wet. Qualifying wasn't great, but he'd basically driven from the back of the field to the front of the field. He was looking really, really strong, and then Kostecki dive bombed him into turn one and, yeah, kind of ended his race. He did come back from it. I think it was about 15th or 16th he ended up. Yeah, Sunday, and then Winterbottom. Yeah, there's, what can you say? They were there for the weekend. Walkinshaw Andretti United. A weekend of what might have been for Chaz. There is no question that the speed was there. He was challenging for that win on Saturday. Probably would have got past Jaime, but the wheel fell off. Mysterious wheel falling off. Yeah, he did get back to the pits, which was quite impressive on three wheels. Yeah, the flashes of Schumacher back at Spa in 99, I think it was. Might have been 2000. Anyway, we're not talking about that here. We're talking about supercars. Yeah, really impressive to get it back to the pits. I was quite surprised he pulled up, bang, wheel on, go. There was no thinking about it, but yeah, that happened. It didn't end up great for what could have been a win there. And then on Sunday, really poor shootout lap. Both him and Ryan Wood had a poor shootout lap on the Sunday. But yeah, he... it was a bad, I'm not sure because the TV coverage didn't, but he didn't seem to make too bad a start, but then he ended up quite a long way back somewhere on the first lap and then raced kind of to the front. If he probably wouldn't have had anything for the Triple Eight guys, but yeah, whatever happened on the first lap kind of really screwed his race. He does still sit third in the points though, so he is still best of the rest. And yeah, Ryan Wood, just a really strong weekend from him. Starting to, well, I'm not sure if he's starting to calm down at all, but yeah, the first couple of weekends of racing, he's had a lot of pace, but hasn't been able to finish, whereas this weekend he did finish. He ended up 10th on Sunday, which is he's starting to turn that raw pace into results. Dick Johnson Racing. I could have sworn they were like second last in the team's championship after the last round, and now we're fourth in the team's championship. They're back, baby. They're back. Yeah. Okay, Saturday, second and third, probably a little bit of good fortune with everything else that happened in the field, but they were there to pick up the pieces. Anton on Sunday, very, very strong as well. Davison, on the other hand, I don't know, maybe they tried something different in the setup and it didn't work. I'm just hoping that this isn't a flash in the pan thing. I'm hoping that this is Dick Johnson Racing being back to, you know, full kind of strength. I did think it was going to take them a lot longer to get back to strength. I didn't think we'd see them at the front this early in the year. And if you'd told me before the weekend that Anton De Pasquale was going to take the JR Memorial Trophy home, I would have laughed. Yeah, I'm just totally shocked that he was the best performer over the weekend, considering where they have been earlier on in the year. Yeah, so fingers crossed that this is DJR back in action and they'll be fighting at the front for the rest of the year. Erebus. Well, I was expecting more from Kostecki over the weekend. I thought he would have been fighting for the wins straight out of the bag. He wasn't. He did put himself third on the grid in Sunday's race, but yeah, he didn't really seem to have the pace there. There was the awkward where he spun Reynolds around on Saturday. Yeah, it was just, well, it wasn't quite a clean weekend. He just seemed a little bit rusty. I was expecting him to, yeah, a lot of people were saying before the weekend that he will be rusty. It's going to take him a few rounds to get back up. Like, nah, it's Brody Kostecki. He'll jump in and bang, be right on it. But yeah, once again, I was wrong. No surprises there. Jack LeBrock had a really solid weekend though. 5th and 8th in the two races, but he didn't have the pace of the front guys. He was still in that kind of like just behind the front guys group, even though his results were okay over the weekend. Where these guys were last year and where they are now, it is a disappointment. They third in the team's championship. Is that more what a good job they're doing, or how bad everyone else is doing right now? Grove Racing, right. Although these guys, they are miles away from Triple Eight right now. They are 4th and 5th in the Drivers' Championship, and they are 2nd in the Teams' Championship. They're really, really solid. Payne got pole on Sunday. He just didn't have the tyre life to stick with the Triple Eight guys, or even Anton. He ended up 4th. Richie Stanaway, just really consistent. I was expecting Richie to be a bit more up and down, but yeah, just he was 6th in the rain on Saturday and 13th on Sunday. He's not challenging those front guys, but he's just picking up solid results all the way through, whereas a lot of the guys are very up and down. Richie's just solidly finishing. It's not going to be long, I don't think, before these guys are challenging for wins every weekend. They're just methodically chipping away and getting better and better and better. I'm really expecting these guys to stick in 2nd position of the championship for the rest of the year. And Triple Eight, probably their worst weekend of the year, believe it or not. Feeney looked really lost on Saturday. I had predicted at the start of the weekend that one of the Triple Eight guys was not going to have a good weekend and be a bit lost. And Feeney looked like that on Saturday. Brown also, he seemed to wear out the tyres a lot quicker than the other guys in the wet. And they just didn't have a Triple Eight like Saturday. Sunday, on the other hand, they were back at it. First and second in the race. Brown, his blot on the copybook, I suppose, on Sunday, his qualifying wasn't great, but it just like watching Shane Van Gisbergen again. He just methodically went along, gradually picked off who he needed to pick off, came up behind Feeney, just gradually worked away at him. It was a really good battle as well. Just worked away, finally got past, and then kind of just drove away and had a fairly big gap at the end. 71-point lead in the championship now. He's starting to walk away. The big hope is that Feeney kind of finds a bit more pace or something and actually makes it a battle, or because the team's championship that's basically done and dusted now. We don't want to see the drivers' championship wrapped up early. The other thing of note, I suppose, over the weekend as well, they did lose that wheel nut in the pit stop with Brown. And another un-Triple Eight like thing to happen. It did give a really, really cool slow motion thing though, as the cameraman was looking at it, and the wheel nut went kind of over, and that slow-mo shot was really cool watching that. Once again, Sunday, normal programming resumes, Triple Eight 1-2. Everyone else just looked very, very second rate at the end of the day on Sunday. So that's my Taupo review, done and dusted. Down in the comments, what did you guys think of the racing over the weekend? In general, I was very happy with it. It could have been a little bit closer on Sunday afternoon, but it's very hard with Triple Eight the way they are at the moment to have very close races in the dry. At least we got to see a battle from those guys, and it wasn't just a straight foregone conclusion like this is the one place where you go and pass. There was a lot of different passing opportunities around the track. It was quite exciting to watch, plus also with the tyre deg and all of that. But that's my review, done and dusted. Until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.